Dear Scorpio, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I hesitated before making this video, not because the information isn't real, but because what I'm about to share with you is so significant that I needed to make sure you were ready to hear it. If you've been feeling lately like something massive is about to shift in your life, like you're standing on the edge of something you can't quite name yet, this video is exactly what you need right now. Be prepared. The second half of 2026 is going to change everything for you, Scorpio. And I don't say that lightly. I'm not talking about small improvements or minor adjustments. I'm talking about the kind of transformation that makes you look back at your life and realize there was a clear before and after. The kind of shift that feels almost too good to be true when it's happening. Here's what most people don't understand. Right now, thousands of people are scrolling past this video. They'll see the thumbnail, maybe read the title, and keep moving. But you stopped. You clicked. You're here, reading these words. And that is not a coincidence. The algorithm didn't randomly show you this video. The universe has a way of guiding the right message to the right person at exactly the right time. And if you're here, it means you're one of the chosen few who are actually ready to receive what's coming. Most Scorpios will miss this window entirely. They'll be so caught up in their current struggles, so focused on what's not working, that they won't even notice when the cosmic doors start opening. But you're different. You're here because some part of you, maybe the part you don't even fully trust yet, knows that something is shifting. And that awareness, that tiny spark of knowing, is going to make all the difference. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be really honest with yourself. Have you been feeling exhausted lately? Not just physically tired, but soul-deep exhausted. Like you've been carrying weight that isn't even yours to carry. Have you been thinking about quitting something? Walking away from a situation that once meant everything to you, or completely changing direction in your life? Maybe it's your job. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's an entire version of yourself that you've been trying to maintain. If you're nodding right now, if any of this is hitting home, I need you to understand something crucial. This exhaustion, this desire to quit, this feeling that you can't keep going the way you have been, it's not a sign that you're failing. It's not evidence that you're weak or that you've made wrong choices. What you're experiencing right now is the universe systematically clearing space in your life. And I'm going to explain exactly why this is happening and what it's preparing you for. But first, leave a comment below. Just write, Scorpio is ready. Because that simple act of declaring your readiness is going to shift something energetically for you. Now, let me tell you what's really happening. Scorpio, you are one of the most misunderstood signs in the entire zodiac. People think they know you. They see your intensity, your depth, your ability to transform, and they make assumptions. But what most people don't realize is that Scorpio doesn't just transform for the sake of change. You transform because you're willing to go into the depths that other signs won't touch. You're willing to face what's hidden, what's uncomfortable, what's real. And for the past several years, you've been doing exactly that. You've been in the depths. You've been facing things that would break other people. You've been carrying responsibilities, managing crises, holding space for others, and somehow still showing up every single day, even when it hurt, even when you wanted to quit, even when no one was watching or acknowledging what you were going through. This is why you're exhausted. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you've been doing the deep work that prepares you for the next level. And Scorpio, the next level is coming. The second half of 2026 is when everything you've been building, everything you've been surviving, everything you've been transforming through, it all starts to pay off in ways you can't even imagine right now. But here's what you need to understand. The reason your luck is about to become, as I said, honestly insane, is not because the universe suddenly decided to be nice to you. It's because you've earned this. You've done the work. You've faced the shadows. You've transformed yourself in ways that most people will never have the courage to do. And now, the cosmic architecture is aligning to match the frequency you've been building. Let me break this down for you in a way that makes sense. In astrology, Scorpio is ruled by two planets: Mars, the planet of action and drive, and Pluto, the planet of transformation and rebirth. This dual rulership is why you're so powerful, but it's also why your journey is often more intense than other signs. You don't just experience life, you experience death and rebirth over and over again. Every major chapter of your life involves letting something die so something new can be born. And right now, you're in the final stages of one of the most significant death cycles you've experienced in years. I know that might sound dramatic, but stay with me. Think about what you've been letting go of lately. Think about the versions of yourself you've been shedding. Think about the situations, relationships, or beliefs that are falling away, even if you're not consciously choosing to release them. This isn't random. This is Pluto doing what Pluto does best, clearing out everything that's no longer aligned with who you're becoming. And the reason this is happening so intensely right now is because the second half of 2026 is bringing in a completely new energetic structure for Scorpio. But you can't step into that new structure while you're still carrying the old weight. This is why so many Scorpios are thinking about quitting their jobs right now. It's not because your job is necessarily bad. It's because the version of you that took that job, that agreed to those responsibilities, that accepted those conditions, that version of you is dying. And the new version of you that's being born needs different conditions, different opportunities, different energy. The same thing is happening in your relationships. If you've been feeling distance from certain people, or if connections that once felt solid now feel strained, it's not because you're growing apart for no reason. It's because your frequency is changing. You're vibrating at a different level now, and not everyone can match that frequency. The universe is gently, and sometimes not so gently, sorting your relationships to make sure you're surrounded by people who can actually support the version of you that's emerging. And here's where it gets really interesting. Stay tuned, because there is one specific cosmic event happening in the second half of 2026 that is directly responsible for this massive shift in Scorpio's luck. And I'm going to reveal exactly what it is and when it happens later in this video. But first, you need to understand the foundation of why this is hitting you so hard right now. Scorpio, you've been in what I call a pressure chamber for the past few years. Imagine a pressure chamber where intense heat and force are applied to raw materials to transform them into something stronger, more valuable, more refined. That's been your life. The pressure you've been under, the challenges you've faced, the transformations you've endured, all of it has been refining you. And here's what most people don't realize about pressure chambers. The moment right before the transformation is complete is often the most intense. It's the moment when the pressure is highest, when the heat is strongest, when everything feels like it might break. That's where you are right now. You're in the final moments of the pressure chamber. And it feels unbearable because you're so close to the breakthrough. But Scorpio, I need you to hear this. You are not breaking. You are breaking through. There is a massive difference. Breaking means falling apart with nothing to show for it. Breaking through means that all the pressure, all the intensity, all the transformation is about to crack open and reveal something extraordinary on the other side. The second half of 2026 is when you break through. And when I say your luck is going to be insane, I mean that the opportunities, the connections, the abundance, the recognition that's been building up behind the scenes is going to start flooding into your life in rapid succession. It's going to feel almost surreal. You're going to have moments where you stop and think, is this really happening? Is this really my life now? And the answer is yes, because you've earned it, because you've done the work, because you've stayed in the pressure chamber when other signs would have given up, because you're Scorpio, and transformation is literally written into your cosmic DNA. Now, Let me tell you about the three major shifts that are going to define the second half of 2026 for you. These aren't vague predictions. These are specific energetic patterns that are already beginning to form. And if you know what to look for, you can position yourself to receive them fully. The first major shift is what I call the recognition wave. For years, Scorpio, you've been working behind the scenes. You've been the one doing the heavy lifting while others took the credit. You've been the strategist, the problem solver, the person everyone turns to when things get difficult, but rarely the person who gets acknowledged for it. You're used to this. Scorpio doesn't need external validation to know your worth. But here's what's changing. In the second half of 2026, your work is going to become visible in ways it hasn't been before. The things you've been building quietly, the skills you've been developing in private, the value you've been creating without fanfare, all of it is going to start getting noticed. And not just noticed, but recognized, celebrated, and rewarded. This might show up as a sudden promotion at work, where leadership finally sees what you've been contributing all along. It might show up as opportunities coming to you instead of you having to chase them. It might show up as people in positions of power or influence suddenly wanting to work with you, collaborate with you, or invest in you. But here's the key. This recognition isn't coming because you're suddenly doing something different. It's coming because the cosmic spotlight is finally turning in your direction. The universe is saying, okay, Scorpio has done the work. Now it's time for the world to see it. And this recognition wave is going to feel almost overwhelming at first, because you're not used to being in the spotlight. Scorpio prefers the shadows, the behind-the-scenes power. But the second half of 2026 is teaching you a new kind of power, the power of being seen, acknowledged, and celebrated for who you truly are. The second major shift is what I call the abundance acceleration. Now, I know a lot of astrology content talks about abundance in vague, mystical terms, but I'm going to be very specific with you. The second half of 2026 is bringing Scorpio a direct, tangible increase in financial flow and causal flow and material resources. This isn't just about manifesting or positive thinking. This is about the cosmic architecture literally opening up channels for money, opportunities, and resources to flow to you more easily. And the reason this is happening now is because you finally cleared out the energetic blocks that were preventing this flow. Think about it. For the past few years, you've been dealing with situations that drained your resources. Maybe you were supporting others financially. Maybe you were stuck in a job that undervalued you. Maybe you were investing time and energy into things that weren't giving you a return. All of that was part of the clearing process. But in the second half of 2026, the flow reverses. Instead of energy and resources flowing out of you, they start flowing to you. And this isn't a slow trickle. This is a flood. You're going to see opportunities for increased income, unexpected financial gains, or resources showing up exactly when you need them. And here's what makes this even more powerful for Scorpio. This abundance isn't just about money. It's about having the resources, the time, the energy, and the support to finally pursue what you actually want. For years, you've been in survival mode, managing crises, putting out fires. But the second half of 2026 is when you shift from survival to creation. You finally have the space and the resources to build the life you've been envisioning. The third major shift, and this is the one that's going to feel the most profound, is what I call the soul alignment breakthrough. Scorpio, for most of your life, you've had this feeling that you're meant for something more, not in an egotistical way, but in a deep, soul-level knowing that there's a specific purpose you're here to fulfill. The problem is, for years, you've been so busy surviving, so caught up in other people's dreams and needs, that you haven't had the space to actually pursue that purpose. But here's what's happening in the second half of 2026. The universe is creating a direct pathway between who you are and what you're meant to do. And I'm not talking about some vague spiritual concept. I'm talking about actual, tangible alignment where your daily life starts reflecting your deepest values and desires, where the work you do feels meaningful, where the relationships you're in feel authentic, where you wake up and actually feel like you're living your life, not just managing it. This soul alignment breakthrough is going to show up in unexpected ways. You might suddenly get clarity on a project or idea you've been sitting on for years. You might meet someone who opens a door you didn't even know existed. You might have a conversation that completely shifts your perspective on what's possible for you. And the beautiful thing about this shift is that it doesn't require you to force anything. It's not about hustling harder or pushing through. It's about finally being in the right energetic space for your purpose to find you. Now, let me tell you about the specific cosmic event I mentioned earlier, because this is crucial. On August 15th, 2026, there's going to be a rare planetary alignment that directly activates Scorpio's sector of transformation and rebirth. I'm talking about a conjunction between Jupiter, the planet of expansion and luck, and Pluto, your ruling planet of transformation, happening in a position that creates a direct channel to Scorpio's core energy. This isn't something that happens often. In fact, the last time we had a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction this powerfully positioned for Scorpio was over a decade ago. And if you look back at that time in your life, you'll probably remember it as a period of massive change, where things that seemed impossible suddenly became possible, where doors opened that you didn't even know you were knocking on. But here's what makes August 2026 even more significant. This conjunction is happening while Saturn, the planet of structure and manifestation, is in a supportive angle to Scorpio. What this means in practical terms is that the expansion and transformation you're experiencing isn't just going to be exciting ideas or temporary highs. It's going to be grounded, sustainable, real. The opportunities that come to you during this period are going to have staying power. The changes you make are going to stick. And this is why I keep saying the second half of 2026 is going to feel too good to be true. Because you're not used to things being misaligned. You're used to fighting for every inch of progress. You're used to transformation being painful and difficult. But this time, it's different. This time, the universe is actually working with you instead of testing you. Let me give you some specific examples of what this might look like in your actual life, because I know Scorpio needs concrete details, not just abstract concepts. If you're in a career that's been draining you, the second half of 2026 might bring a job offer that seems almost perfect. Better pay, better conditions, work that actually aligns with your skills and interests. And the wild part is, you won't have to chase it. It's going to come to you, often through unexpected connections or circumstances. If you've been struggling in a relationship, whether romantic or otherwise, you're going to see one of two things happen. Either the relationship is going to transform in a profound way, where both people suddenly understand each other on a deeper level and the connection strengthens dramatically, or the relationship is going to naturally complete, making space for someone new who's actually aligned with who you're becoming. And here's the key. Whichever one happens is going to feel right. You're not going to be left confused or heartbroken. You're going to have clarity. If you've been dealing with financial stress, the second half of 2026 is when you're going to see tangible relief. This might come as a raise, a new income stream, an unexpected payment, or simply a shift where your expenses decrease and your income increases. But beyond just the numbers, you're going to feel a sense of financial security that you haven't felt in years. That constant anxiety about money, that feeling of never having enough, is going to start dissolving. And if you've been feeling lost or disconnected from your purpose, the second half of 2026 is when you're going to get hit with clarity so strong it's almost overwhelming. You're going to know, with absolute certainty, what your next move needs to be. And more importantly, you're going to have the courage and the resources to actually make that move. But Scorpio, I need to be real with you about something. This incredible luck, this insane transformation that's coming, it's not going to just fall into your lap while you sit back and wait. The universe is opening doors for you, but you still have to walk through them. And this is where a lot of Scorpios are going to miss their opportunity. Because here's what happens. When you've been in survival mode for so long, when you've been dealing with disappointment after disappointment, you develop protective mechanisms. You stop believing that good things can actually happen. You become skeptical of opportunities because you're afraid of being let down again. You talk yourself out of taking chances because the risk of failure feels too great. And I get it. Scorpio has been hurt before. You've trusted people who betrayed you. You've invested in things that didn't work out. You've opened your heart and had it broken. So you've learned to protect yourself by expecting the worst, by staying guarded, by not getting your hopes up. But in the second half of 2026, that protective mechanism is going to become your biggest obstacle. Because the opportunities that are coming to you are going to require you to be open, to be vulnerable, to take leaps of faith. And if you're so locked down in protection mode that you can't recognize or receive these opportunities, you're going to watch them pass by. This is why the work you're doing right now, in this moment before the shift happens, is so critical. You need to start softening, not in a way that makes you weak or naive, but in a way that allows you to receive. You need to start believing, even just a little bit, that good things can happen to you, that you deserve abundance, that your life can actually feel good. And I know that's hard for Scorpio. You're used to earning everything through struggle. You're used to transformation being painful. You're used to having to fight for what you want. But the second half of 2026 is teaching you a different way. It's teaching you that sometimes transformation can feel like relief. That sometimes abundance flows easily. That sometimes you don't have to suffer to deserve good things. So here's what I want you to do. Starting right now, I want you to practice receiving. And I mean that literally. When someone gives you a compliment, don't deflect it or minimize it. Just say thank you and let it land. When an opportunity presents itself, even a small one, don't immediately list all the reasons why it won't work. Consider it. Explore it. When you feel a moment of joy or excitement, don't shut it down by reminding yourself of everything that's wrong. Let yourself feel it. This practice of receiving is going to be your training ground for the second half of 2026. Because when the big opportunities start showing up, when the major shifts start happening, you need to be in a state where you can actually let them in. And that state isn't something you can just switch on overnight. It's something you build through small, daily practices of opening up and allowing good things to reach you. Now, let me talk about something that a lot of astrology content doesn't address. But it's crucial for Scorpio. The second half of 2026 isn't just about external changes. It's not just about new jobs, new relationships, or new opportunities. The deepest transformation is going to be internal. It's going to be about how you see yourself, how you value yourself, and how you show up in the world. For years, Scorpio, you've been defined by your ability to handle intensity. You're the one people call in a crisis. You're the one who can face the darkness and come out stronger. You're the one who transforms pain into power. And that's all true. That's all part of who you are. But somewhere along the way, you started believing that your value was tied to your ability to suffer and survive. You started thinking that if things were easy, if life felt good, if you weren't struggling, then somehow you weren't living up to your potential. You started equating transformation with pain, growth with difficulty, strength with endurance. And that belief system has kept you locked in cycles of unnecessary suffering. The second half of 2026 is going to shatter that belief system. You're going to discover that you can be just as powerful, just as transformative, just as deep, while also experiencing joy, ease, and abundance. You're going to learn that strength isn't just about how much you can endure. It's also about how much goodness you can allow yourself to receive. And this internal shift is going to change everything. Because when you stop believing that you have to suffer to be worthy, you stop unconsciously creating situations that make you suffer. When you stop equating struggle with growth, you stop resisting the opportunities that come easily. When you start believing that you deserve good things simply because you exist, not because you've earned them through pain, the entire trajectory of your life changes. This is the real magic of the second half of 2026 for Scorpio. Yes, the external circumstances are going to improve dramatically. Yes, the opportunities are going to be incredible. Yes, your luck is going to feel insane. But the reason all of that is possible is because you're finally ready to receive it. You're finally ready to believe that your life can be good without being a constant battle. And here's something beautiful that's going to happen. As you start experiencing this new way of being, as you start allowing ease and abundance into your life, you're going to inspire other Scorpios to do the same. Because Scorpio is a sign that leads through example. You don't preach or lecture. You transform yourself, and in doing so, you show others what's possible. So when other Scorpios see you thriving, when they see you experiencing joy without guilt, when they see you receiving abundance without apology, something in them is going to shift too. You're going to become living proof that Scorpio doesn't have to suffer to be powerful, and that's going to create a ripple effect that goes far beyond just your own life. But let me bring this back to something practical, because I know you're probably wondering what specific actions you should take to prepare for this shift. And the answer might surprise you, because it's not about doing more. It's about doing less. It's about creating space. Think about your life right now. How much of your time and energy is spent on things that don't actually matter to you? How many obligations are you carrying that aren't yours? How many relationships are you maintaining out of guilt rather than genuine connection? How much mental space is occupied by worry, planning, and trying to control outcomes? The second half of 2026 is going to require space. Space for new opportunities to land. Space for new people to enter. Space for new versions of yourself to emerge. And you can't create that space if your life is already packed to the brim with things that are draining you. So here's your assignment. Scorpio, between now and August, I want you to become ruthless about what gets your energy. And I use the word ruthless intentionally, because Scorpio understands that sometimes love looks like boundaries. Sometimes growth looks like saying no. Sometimes transformation looks like walking away from things that no longer serve you, even if they once did. Start with your calendar. Look at how you're spending your time. What commitments can you release? What meetings can you skip? What obligations can you delegate or decline? I'm not saying abandon your responsibilities. I'm saying stop volunteering for responsibilities that aren't yours. Stop saying yes when you mean no. Stop filling every empty moment with activity because you're afraid of stillness. Then look at your relationships. Who in your life actually energizes you? Who leaves you feeling drained? Who do you spend time with out of obligation versus genuine desire? And here's the hard part. You need to start creating distance from the people who are energy vampires. Even if they're not bad people. Even if you care about them. Even if you feel guilty. Because the second half of 2026 is going to bring new people into your life. People who match your frequency. People who can actually support the version of you that's emerging. But they can't enter if all your relationship space is already occupied by people who are holding you back. Next, look at your environment. Your physical space is a reflection of your internal state, and it's also a container for energy. If your home is cluttered, chaotic, or filled with things that remind you of old versions of yourself, you're literally surrounding yourself with stagnant energy. You need to clear it out. And I'm not talking about a surface level cleaning. I'm talking about a deep purge. Go through your closet and get rid of clothes that don't fit the person you're becoming. Go through your storage and release items you're holding onto out of guilt or obligation. Go through your digital space and delete files, emails, and photos that are keeping you tethered to the past. This physical clearing is going to create an energetic shift that you'll feel immediately. Because every item you release is a declaration to the universe that you're ready for something new. Every space you clear is an invitation for abundance to flow in. Now, here's something that's going to be really important for Scorpio specifically. You need to start practicing trust. And I know that's a loaded word for you. Scorpio has trust issues for good reason. You've been betrayed. You've been let down. You've learned that the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. But the second half of 2026 is going to require you to trust in a different way. Not blind trust where you ignore red flags or give your power away. But trust in the process. Trust that the universe is actually working in your favor. Trust that the doors closing are making space for better doors to open. Trust that the people leaving are making space for the right people to arrive. This kind of trust doesn't mean being passive or naive. It means staying open even when you're scared. It means taking action even when you can't see the full picture. It means believing that you're being guided even when the path isn't clear. And here's how you build that trust. You start small. You take tiny leaps of faith and notice what happens. You follow small intuitive nudges and see where they lead. You say yes to opportunities that scare you a little bit and observe the outcome. Each time you take a small risk and it works out, you're building evidence that the universe has your back. You're training yourself to trust the process. Because when August comes, when that Jupiter-Pluto conjunction activates, when the major opportunities start showing up, you're going to need to be able to move quickly. You're going to need to be able to say yes without overthinking. You're going to need to be able to take leaps without having every detail figured out. And you can only do that if you've been practicing trust in the months leading up to it. Let me also talk about something that's going to be challenging but necessary. The second half of 2026 is going to ask you to be visible in ways you're not comfortable with. Scorpio loves operating behind the scenes. You love having power without being in the spotlight. You love knowing things that others don't. You love being the mystery. But the recognition wave I talked about earlier is going to push you into visibility whether you like it or not. Your work is going to be seen. Your talents are going to be acknowledged. People are going to want to know who you are and what you're about. And you're going to have to learn how to be visible without feeling exposed. This is going to require you to redefine what power means to you. You've always associated power with control, with knowing more than you reveal, with keeping your cards close to your chest. But there's a different kind of power in vulnerability. There's strength in letting people see you. There's influence in sharing your truth instead of hiding it. The second half of 2026 is teaching you that you can be visible and still maintain your depth. You can share your story and still keep your mystery. You can let people in and still protect your energy. It's not all or nothing. You don't have to choose between being completely hidden or completely exposed. There's a middle ground where you can be authentically seen while still maintaining healthy boundaries. And here's why this matters. The opportunities that are coming to you in the second half of 2026 are going to require you to show up fully. They're going to require you to own your expertise, to speak your truth, to let people see what you're capable of. If you're hiding, if you're playing small, if you're downplaying your abilities, you're going to miss out on opportunities that are literally designed for you. So start practicing visibility now. Share your ideas even when they're not fully formed. Speak up in meetings even when you're not sure you have the perfect answer. Post about your work even when it feels uncomfortable. Let people see your process, your struggles, your growth. Each time you practice being visible, you're dismantling the fear that's been keeping you hidden. Now, I want to address something that some of you are probably feeling right now. You're reading all of this, and part of you is excited. But another part of you is skeptical. Part of you is thinking, this sounds too good to be true. Part of you is waiting for the other shoe to drop. Part of you is thinking, this might work for other Scorpios, but not for me. And I get it. Scorpio has been disappointed before. You've gotten your hopes up and been let down. You've believed in things that didn't work out. You've trusted people who betrayed you. So you've learned to protect yourself by not believing, by staying skeptical, by expecting the worst. But I need you to understand something. That skepticism, that protective mechanism, is the only thing standing between you and the life you're meant to live. The universe is literally lining up opportunities for you. The cosmic architecture is shifting in your favor. The doors are opening. But if you're so locked in skepticism that you can't see the doors, if you're so protected that you can't through them, you're going to stay exactly where you are. So here's what I'm asking you to do, just for the next few months, just as an experiment. I want you to practice believing, not in a naive way where you ignore reality, but in a way where you stay open to possibility, where you notice the good things that are happening instead of only focusing on what's wrong, where you allow yourself to feel excited about the future instead of bracing for disappointment. Because here's the truth, Scorpio, your life is about to change in ways you can't even imagine right now. The second half of 2026 is going to bring opportunities, connections, abundance, and alignment that are going to feel almost surreal. But you have to be in a state where you can receive them. You have to be open enough to recognize them when they show up. You have to be brave enough to say yes, even when you're scared. And I know you can do this, because Scorpio is the sign of transformation. You've been through death and rebirth more times than you can count. You've faced darkness that would destroy other signs. You've transformed pain into power, wounds into wisdom, struggle into strength. You know how to survive. You know how to endure. You know how to rise from the ashes. But now it's time to learn something new. It's time to learn how to thrive. It's time to learn how to receive. It's time to learn that your life can feel good without being a constant battle. It's time to learn that you deserve abundance not because you've suffered enough, but simply because you exist. The second half of 2026 is your invitation to step into a completely new way of being, where transformation feels like relief instead of pain, where growth feels like expansion instead of struggle, where power comes from authenticity instead of control, where abundance flows easily instead of being fought for. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to figure out how to make all this happen. You don't have to have a perfect plan. You don't have to control every detail. You just have to stay open. You just have to keep clearing space. You just have to keep practicing trust. You just have to keep showing up as the most authentic version of yourself. The universe is handling the rest. The cosmic forces are aligning in your favor. The doors are opening. The opportunities are coming. The people who are meant to support you are on their way. The abundance you've been working toward is about to flood in. The recognition you deserve is about to arrive. The life you've been building is about to become your reality. So Scorpio, if you've made it this far in this video, if you've read every word, if something in you is resonating with this message, I want you to do 3 things right now. First, leave a comment below. Just write, Scorpio claims this energy, because that simple declaration is going to shift something for you energetically. It's going